All right, welcome back. Welcome back. A Course in Miracles and Non-Duality. Yeah, let's jump right into that one. Very, very interesting ideas here today. And you may have noticed, if you've seen some of these videos, when I put hashtags here in the description of each video on YouTube, there is always a hashtag non-duality. There is also a hashtag pure non-duality. So we'll talk about what non-duality actually is here and what pure non-duality is and how A Course in Miracles fits into that, because it does. This is a purely non-dual spiritual tradition. So let's just say that out front. Now, there are a handful of spiritual traditions in the world that fall under this heading of non-duality. And again, that's a word, it's a term, it's an idea, and a concept which we use here to communicate with one another. So specifically here in A Course in Miracles, we're in chapter 4, section 2 of the text, the final 2 paragraphs of the section. Paragraphs 10 and 11, to be specific. And the non-duality language, of course, appears throughout this course because it's holographic. In other words, its presentation, its meaning is 100% consistent, and every part contains the whole. But there is some specific language related to this idea of non-duality at the end of paragraph 11. So if you wish to look this up, then you'll know where to find it. Pretty much, for those that want to go hunting for the language. So again, not every spiritual tradition is non-dual. And that's absolutely fine. There are many doors. There are just a few, actually, a handful that have this presentation. And I'm using presentation just because words fall short of truth in the end. All we can do as teachers is point to it. It must be experienced by each and every one of us, ultimately. Now, section 2 here of chapter 4 is the ego and false autonomy. So let's talk a little bit about the ego and how we set it aside, and perception. Again, perception as opposed to knowledge. It's different, it's distinct from knowledge. In perception, there is a subject and an object, a perceiver, which we usually think of as ourselves, and a perceived, which appears to the perceiver outside. So a subject and an object. There are 2 things. It's dual. That's duality. Perception is the world of duality, which, as we know, is illusion. It is. It's illusion. And this course makes it very clear, which places it immediately under the broader heading of non-duality when it comes to spiritual traditions. So what we see here in paragraph 10 will lead up to this broader non-duality discussion. We see that salvation is right-mindedness. Yeah, it's right-mindedness, which leads naturally to one-mindedness. So another way of looking at this is right or correct, clarified perception leads naturally to knowledge. It's a stepping stone. That's why this course is all about our clarifying our perception, seeing things as they are, rather than as the ego would have them be. The world of duality and suffering, in other words. And right perception leads us to the inevitable realization that perception itself is completely unnecessary. So we do, at that point, go beyond perception to knowledge. Knowledge. That's how A Course in Miracles describes it. And perception, all perception, whether right or wrong, whether clarified or not, involves a distinction between subject and object. Perception is duality. Now, we can pave the way, so to speak, for our return to knowledge with correct perception, with seeing things as they are. According to A Course in Miracles, God then takes the final step himself. And that's what we refer to as enlightenment or awakening, full enlightenment, full awakening. We can have glimpses of this on the way. The Course refers to these as revelation, where we're suddenly in the experience of our oneness with God. So yes, this can be experienced even while we appear to be here as an individual self-sustaining survival unit, human being. That's what we call this thing anyway. Why do we need right perception? Well, it paves the way. Perception can't know knowledge is beyond perception, but we can pave the way. We can remove the obstacles, the barriers that we ourselves have imposed to truth. That we can do. And the ego can't survive without judgment. So with right perception, we're setting aside all of our judgment. It's utterly without attack. And Jesus describes this for us in paragraph 10. Right perception is without attack. Utterly without it, completely without it. And the ego can't survive without attack. It can't survive without judgment. It's naturally set aside. That paves the way for knowledge. Boom, right there. Now, when will this happen for us? Well, who knows? I mean, really, actually, who knows when enlightenment will come? Maybe today. You don't know that. Maybe today. So, with correct perception, we pave the way, in a manner of speaking. It's a stepping stone to knowledge. And we eventually realize that we will just leave all perception completely behind. And so it's one thing to get somewhat of an intellectual understanding of this. And yes, it's true what we just talked about a minute ago, that this can be experienced while we appear to be here in the world. So you might rightly ask, how? How is that we can experience perfect oneness, i.e. heaven, here in the world, when we're meeting our bodily needs of going to the bathroom, of eating and drinking, paying the rent or the mortgage, the light bill. If you have a job outside the house, going to the job outside the house. If you have a job inside the house, doing the job inside the house to continue to pay the light bill. All of that stuff. How is it that in the midst of what passes for our daily lives, we can experience truth? Well, Jesus then leads us here to an answer in the form of non-duality, which of course is beyond form. This is how it appears in print, in printed words, in language that we're using here in the world to communicate with one another. How can we experience this? Jesus asks the question, who is the you that experiences this? Remember the video from a couple of days ago. Who are we anyway? Oh, and I think you know, I know you know, I know you know. We all know deep down. We know. Mm-hmm. So, spirit is changeless, it's eternal, it's constant. Who is the you that's experiencing this? We resort to concepts and ideas and language here in the world because we are communicating with each other. And spirit, as Jesus informs us again, which is our reality, is not a continuum, and it's not parsed out into component parts. It's whole and total in and of itself. It can't be compared to an opposite. Knowledge never introduces comparisons. It simply is. So spirit, our reality, can't be compared to an opposite. There is no non-spirit. This is non-duality right here at the end of paragraph 11. And this is where A Course in Miracles is non-dual. It's actually non-dual throughout the course, but specific language, this is it, if you want to highlight some of it. This idea appears in many places, but this is a non-dual spiritual tradition. Knowledge makes no comparisons. It's beyond all comparisons, meaning it's beyond the duality of subject and object, of you and me, of I and someone else. It's beyond that. It's beyond language. It's beyond all of our conventions that we've put forth here as human beings. So we appear to be. Spirit is not human. It's spirit. This is where A Course in Miracles is essentially non-dual. Now, what's pure non-duality? Pure non-duality acknowledges that God is. Only God is. The only is implicit here in the two-word statement, God is. Now, there is another and a much older in time tradition than A Course in Miracles called Advaita Vedanta from India. It's an offset of Hinduism. And Advaita Vedanta says the same thing. Only Brahman is, Brahman, God, the word that they use traditionally there, Brahman. Only Brahman is, all else is illusion. Yes. Yes. A Course in Miracles says the same thing. That's pure non-duality. So why would anyone ever want to practice a spiritual tradition that says there is no world? We're not actually human beings at all, are we? Why would anyone want to do that? Well, to the ego, it's death. It's obliterating our entire self-concept, which we discover brings us nothing but pain anyway. The ego brings us nothing but pain when we see ourselves, when we perceive incorrectly. Pain is a constant experience. We might have blissful romantic candlelight dinners, hot sex on a Friday night or a Monday afternoon or something like that, right? We might have a beautiful meal. We may have periods of time in our lives where we're relatively comfortable, but it never lasts. Doesn't mean that we can't enjoy it. Well, it's lasting, we can and should, but it doesn't last. Our reality, truth itself, is constant. It's beyond subject and object. It's beyond our world of suffering. There is no other out there. This is why the practice of true forgiveness, as it's put forth here in A Course in Miracles, is so powerful, because the attitude of true forgiveness acknowledges that this is a dream, that only God is. So who's your brother then? When it appears that somebody does something to us, they didn't actually do anything to us. There is no other. There is no other on whom to act or against whom to transgress. So we've never truly done anything to each other. All appearances to the world are the contrary. Right? Here in the world and in time, we've made war on each other. We've said all kinds of nasty things, and then some. However, in truth, nothing has happened. Ideas leave not their source. Very, very, very powerful idea from A Course in Miracles. Now, it can also mean that ideas don't leave the mind, true, right? But ideas, as in the Son of God, leave not their source. Capitalize the S. Ideas, you and me, leave not their source. We've never left. And true forgiveness acknowledges this, acknowledges that this is a dream. So we forgive our brother, who is simply an external appearance, is actually us, not separate at all. He appears to be outside of us. So we forgive the appearance, and forgive ourselves for dreaming it. And we release everything, the entire situation, to our inner teacher, to Jesus, to the Holy Spirit, to your guide or guides. This is part of the attitude of true forgiveness. It's why it's such a powerful practice, because it acknowledges non-duality. It acknowledges the pure non-duality. It acknowledges what simply is and restores our mind. It clarifies our perception so that we may then know. It paves the way for knowledge, for the direct and constant experience of our own limitlessness, our own boundlessness and joy as one with God. So, in turning the camera on today, I wanted to leave some inspiration to practice, and I hope that's it for you. Understand here that with this conversation, this does not imply that other spiritual traditions are less than. Remember, there are no comparisons. There is no other. It doesn't mean other traditions are bad because they don't proffer non-duality. That's not what this means at all. There are many doors to spirituality. There appear to be 8 billion of us, so we had better hope there are a lot of approaches, and there are. This is not the approach that everyone's going to take in this lifetime. What's universal is our awakening, which will happen in time. How long will that be? Well, I don't know. The purpose of time is for us to decide for our reality as spirit and to awaken, to set the ego aside. That's the purpose of time. How much time will that take? I don't know. It depends on you. And if you're not interested in this or a non-dual spiritual tradition, no problem. You don't have to practice one. That's the beauty of this course, is that it's self-study. So just know, though, what you're getting into here. I hope it excites you. I really do, because it is a path to awakening. Actually, you can say that of every spiritual practice, but this one will, if you choose to do the true forgiveness, if you choose to connect with your inner teacher and follow your inner teacher's guidance completely, totally, 100%, this will shorten the amount of time it takes you to wake up. We can't offer anyone, of course, any guarantees that it's going to shave 50,000 lifetimes off, but it may. It may well. So once we learn a forgiveness lesson, we don't have to repeat it. That particular lesson will not come up again for us because we learned our forgiveness lesson. All right, so this may pose more questions than it answers. And in that case, it's a good lesson. The spiritual path should answer questions, yes, but if it causes you to ask as many questions as it answers, sometimes it seems like more, that's a good thing too. So I invite any inquiries, any questions or comments that you may have. The subscription button is right here, and I'd love to have you join me. Again, this is a much longer conversation. I will be talking about it in my live stream, which I have going on over on Patreon, and my bio here on YouTube has the details, the link to that page. So if that's something that you're interested in down the line here, we'll be returning to this subject again because it's very important and people frankly have lots of questions about it. So if you're wondering what non-duality is, that's a really good question. I invite you to tune in to this video in its entirety. All right, guys, thank you so much. I look forward to your questions. Talk to you soon.